In this tutorial I'm going to be showing how to do a wire wrapped component. You can buy actual tools that do the wire coiling for you, but if you know how to do it by hand, it's a great technique to use and you don't need to necessarily go and buy any tools for this particular component. The component is great to use as a feature on bracelets, necklaces, really any object you would like. I've also got here a bracelet base which has ends that screw off, so you could screw off the ends and beat it up and use your wire component twisted coils in between, or actually for the whole bracelet itself if you like as well. So to do the wire wrap components, again I'm using artistic wire for this. It is a copper coated wire, silver non-tarnish. It does come in other colours, it comes in a variety of gauges. Today I'll be using a 22 gauge and a 26 gauge to make the component. The base of the component to do the wire wrapping around, we'll be using a short length of 16 gauge wire. This is also a bead long product called Colorcraft. If you want to make the base of the bracelet as well, make your own bracelet base instead of buying a bought one, I've used 16 gauge as the base of this bracelet base, and this would equate to nearly a 16 gauge as well. The first step in making this component is using the 26 gauge, which is the finer wire, to coil, which is the intricate pattern that you see on the outside of the component. So what we'll be doing is taking, this is the 16 gauge wire, and I've cut a length of 26 gauge wire about 1 meter long. Now all we'll be doing with this is coiling it around the 16 gauge. So I just place my thumb at a cross section of the wire holding the two wires together. Your first couple of wraps aren't overly important, just to start securing it, and then basically what you want to do is get the coiling very close together. Take your time when doing this. You'll find the more that you do it, the faster you do get at it. I find that you really have to concentrate, watch it quite closely just to make sure you're not getting any overlapping, but you will get faster at it as you go. Keep wrapping around till you get about a 10 centimeter to 12 centimeter wrap along the 16 gauge wire. It really just depends on how big you want your components to be, so I'll keep going with that and show you when I'm finished it. I've finished the wire wrapping to the end. I've used probably 90 centimeters to 1 meter of the 26 gauge, which has given me about 11.5 centimeters of coil. Basically what you want to do now is tidy up the ends. So with your flush cutters, just trim off as close to the last spiral or coil each end. And gently pull the coil off of your wire. So this is now coiled and hollow. Now that we've got our hollow coil, what I tend to do is cut that into two to make two equal size components. That way you know definitely we'll have the same spiral. If you're doing matching components, to say these two on the side, they're the same size. So the easiest way to do that is by cutting your coil in half. So I just roughly find the middle of that, and just using my flush cutters, I'll cut that in half. Now the next point, we need to go back to using the 16 gauge heavy wire as we used as like a. What you want to do now is actually coil this around the 16 gauge. You just go slowly. I'll just see if I can get the camera a little bit closer for you. so you can see what it's actually doing. Wrapping the 22 gauge covered with 26 gauge around is forming the coil. So you keep going until you reach the end of the coil, and what you do is wrap firmly 3 times again the 22 gauge to match what you've done on the other end. Now just push that in a little slightly, and that's your component. What you need to do now is flush cut the excess tails off, and I'll pull it off to flush cut the other end. It's just easier because we did a couple of loose wraps to start with. I'll flush cut that off to the closest loop, and there you have a wrap component. And to wrap the 26 gauge around. We've now cut a length of about 30 centimeters of the 22 gauge wire, which is a slightly heavier wire. We will wrap again, as we did with the 26 gauge, we'll wrap it around the mandrel quite tightly for 3 good wraps, and then leave it pointing upwards. What you want to do now is that's now secured onto our mandrel. What we want to do now is put our core on, so slide it on to the length of 22 gauge. So you've got your 16 gauge mandrel, you've wire wrapped your 22 gauge around 3 times, that forms the end of the component. You've slid on your 26 gauge coil. On our website we are now stocking artistic wire and also bead-along components and tools. If the product is not on our website, please just drop us a quick email and we'll let you know the availability and price. Thank you. Bye.